So first of all, thank you for coming today. Hopefully you're all in the right place. This is the numeracy refresher, specifically to help you with psychometric tests. My name is Helen Frost. I'm one of the careers consultants in the Faculty of Science and Engineering, and I work specifically with one of the departments in there, which is maths. And we had the seed of an idea a while ago that this session might be quite useful, and we had exactly the right people to do it in our great maths students. So that's where it came from. First of all, apologies as well for my voice. I'm just on the sort of end of a cold, so I'm hoping my voice does hold out for today. I'm not talking for very long though, so that's good. So we're recording this session today. If it all works and goes to plan, we'll pop it on YouTube afterwards. So if any of you want to watch it back, you will be able to do that with all the stuff that Harry's doing in a bit as well. So in terms of who else is in the room, we have got Harry. If you just want to give a little wave, he'll introduce himself properly later, but he is a third-year maths student who's going to be co-running this session with me. We also have at the back of the room 5 of our maths students who are either second or third years who have volunteered to help today. So if there's ever a point where you're feeling a bit stuck with what's being explained, as long as Harry isn't talking at the time, then please just pop your hand up and one of them will come over to you and answer any questions that you've got on the maths. So what has brought you here today? I'm guessing there's probably a mixture of people in the room. Some of you might have attended a session on psychometric testing and you just want to find out a bit more about the numerical element. Some of you might have been invited to a test, but you're feeling a little bit worried. Maybe you've not done maths since GCSE, so a few years ago, and you're not quite sure what to expect and you maybe need a bit of a refresher. Whatever reason it is that you're here, that's absolutely fine. You're very welcome. Also, the number of you here should hopefully make you feel a bit more reassured. There's lots of students that feel a little bit anxious about these numerical tests, so you're not alone there. This is a pilot session, so it's the first one of these that we've run. So we will be asking you at the end just by a QR code for some feedback, just very generally, you know, did you find it helpful? Is there anything that you would do differently? So we'd really appreciate that, so that we know whether to run it next year, what to do differently, that sort of thing. So let's get cracking. For those of you who've just arrived, if you could just scan the QR code on the screen there and just let us know that you're here, that would be brilliant. Okay. Okay. There we go. So what will we be doing today? So we will be refreshing some basic math skills, hopefully. So things like percentages, averages, decimals, and a little bit on fractions. It won't be anything complex at all. It's probably pre-GCSE time, to be honest, probably Key Stage 3 for those of you who are familiar with that terminology. What we'll do is Harry will work through a few examples with you just to show you how things work. Then it'll be your turn to have a go. Sorry. And then we'll actually do some practice test questions that are timed. We're going to introduce you to the style of questions that you can expect in an actual test, and we'll give you some tips and tricks to make those questions a little bit easier as well, so maybe some shortcuts along the way. We've got our maths volunteers helping you, so they'll be floating the room during the session as well, and we'll also be signposting you at the end to some further places to practice as well. What we won't be doing is discussing the different types of psychometric tests. That's a whole session on its own, and I will tell you at the end about some of the things that are coming up where you can find out more about psychometric tests in general. We won't be asking you to share your answers as well, so everything that you do will be your own work. We won't be embarrassing anyone by getting you to put your hand up and answer questions, so please feel reassured about that. We also unfortunately haven't got the time to go into any of these topics in real depth, so this is just really a starter that you can then take forward afterwards and do some work and some practice on your own. Okay. So what is a numerical reasoning psychometric test? Okay, so they are designed to measure your ability to interpret numerical information and use it to solve problems, but it will only be the type of numerical data that you would be used, you would need to use in the job that you're applying to do. So there won't be any real complex maths in any of these tests that would be completely irrelevant. You may be asked to do a numerical test as part of an assessment process. So approximately 60% of employers actually use them in their assessment processes at the moment. They might ask you to do it online, maybe from home before you even have an interview, or they might ask you to do it as part of an assessment centre in their offices, maybe on a machine or even manually. The unfortunate truth is that the reason why a lot of employers ask you to do these is, yes, they want to find out, you know, have you got a basic numerical ability to be able to do the job, but also it's often to do with the number of applications that they receive. So quite often you'll find that an employer will get 10,000 applications and they need to cut that down pretty in a fair and robust way. So that's one reason why they use tests. The good news, though, is that the benchmark that they set to pass is normally not mega high. So they'll measure you against a norm group of other students rather than on your raw score, and they often look for about 30 to 50% as a pass mark to get through to the next stage of whatever process you're in. Okay, so the other thing I suppose to remember when you're doing these tests is you never know who else you're up against in this assessment process. So if you're feeling a little bit worried about your numerical ability, please don't let that stop you from either applying to a job or continuing once you know that there's a numerical test as part of a process. Just have a go anyway, do your best, because you don't know whether the rest of those people that are applying are better at maths than you or worse. So just have a go and just see how you get on, and often they will give you some sort of feedback on this as well. So that's a little bit just to set the scene. I'm going to hand over to Harry now, who's got more of a voice than me. Apologies for that. So Harry's just going to take you through the actual maths and introduce himself. Thank you.
Right. Hi, everybody. First of all, it's great to see so many people here willing to do some maths. Yes, my name is Harry. This is a little bit about me. Very, very quickly, like Helen said, I'm a third-year maths student. I actually do maths videos on TikTok. Here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. A bit of fun that I started October, I think it was 2021, and then people realised that I was actually teaching maths, so they set off, and I've been in some news articles and stuff. So that's a bit about me. You can find me online if you want to. I also like to dance as well. Okay, I'm going to give you literally just a minute, if that, just to have a think about what you can remember, just to get you going a little bit about if you've got any knowledge already. If you haven't, it's absolutely fine. But even if you don't know how to get to the answer of some of these, just have a think. Maybe what's the percentage? I don't know. I'm going to give you just 1 minute. It might be a good idea if you get some paper or something just to write down. Just 1 minute, very quickly, just to think about a couple of these. Like I said, you don't have to get the answer. We're going to go through them in the session, but just an idea. This is kind of the stuff that's coming up. Very basic. If you've not seen it before, it's fine. If you have, then that's quite good. What time do you want me to finish? Sorry? What time do you want me to finish? Okay. Okay, don't worry if you've not got an answer to some of them, or, you know, that wasn't the point of that bit getting an answer. It's just to kind of see what we're covering today. So we're doing some percentages, fractions, decimal reminders, bit of rounding, and then averages, the type of basic maths stuff that you will see. So we're going to go straight into one of the example questions on very basic addition and subtraction, just to kind of get you your brain's going. So you will see something like this in a test. It might be a graph, it might be a chart. And we've got some data about a phone company, and it says, which year was the most profitable for SMTT phones? Have you printed some of those charts off, Helen?
Yeah, if anyone can't see that table, we've got some printed off, so just put your hand up and we'll give you a printed off table.
I'm not going to do any maths for the minute. I want you just to have a go. Which was the most profitable? If you're unsure what profitable means, I would suggest having a look at the chart. Look for any bits of information. I'll give you just a minute to have a go at that. You can use a calculator, by the way. You have to do it all in your head. Okay, so again, you might see a question like this and you're not sure what profitable means, but my aim for this one is to get you looking at the chart, and you can see at the bottom here, it says profit is turnover minus cost. So we're just going to take the information from the table. It wants the most profitable year. So look at each year and do the subtraction. We'll do the turnover minus the cost. So the profit for 2003 would be 116,000, take away 86,000, which I think is 30,000. Yes, it is. Do that for all of them, and you should get that 2005 was the most profitable. I think it comes out at 64,000. So look out for any formulas that are in your charts. If you're unsure of how to do the maths, there might be some hints in there. So we're doing subtraction for that. So to get that, it was 178,000, subtract 114,000, another zero, and that got you 64,000. And that was the most profitable. We wanted the most one. So we're looking for the highest profit for all of those years. Okay, let's have a look at percentages. We'll do a little background on percentages if you haven't seen them for a while. Percent literally means per 100. Per century is 100 years, per 100. So what that means is, 1% is literally 1 out of 100. Might not have seen the percent sign before, maybe you have, but this sign here is the percentage sign. So we can then say, okay, what's 34%? That means 34 out of 100. And we can convert between percentages and fractions. 1%, 1 out of 100. But how do we find a percentage of an amount? So that's what percentages means, a percentage in a fraction. You might be asked, like again, have a chart, and you might be asked to find a percentage of an amount, whatever context the question might be in. So let's work through an example. Hopefully everybody at the back can see what I write on here as well. So no context to this, just basic maths. 65% of 180. Like I just said, 1% is 1 out of 100. Here we've got 65%, so this literally means 65 out of 100. Of in maths, if you do any type of maths, of means times. So I'm going to change that of to be the times sign. And then I want the amount, 65% of the amount 180, so I multiply by 180. And if I just record my screen, and that's all we have to type into our calculator. Depends what calculator you have. It might be easier to do that 65 out of 100 as a decimal, or you can do it as a fraction. You can type this bit in first. So I'll do it here. Can you see that? Yes, good. 65 out of 100. This fraction line here is a divide. So 65 out of 100. You may know that that's the decimal straight away. It's up to you. Put it in straight away if you do. And then I'm timesing by 180. And we get 117. That's our answer for a question like that. So change the percentage to a fraction. Put that in your calculator first if you want, and then, then multiply by 180. Okay, so that's all we have to do with one like that. I'll leave my working up here. I'll change those to arrows to help. And I'll ask you to have a go at one like that. So same idea, just different numbers, no context at the minute. Just have a go at the maths. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so exactly the same idea. Don't know the answer's on here. No, it's not, so I'll do it here. 78% of 230. What did we have to do? We can change that out of 100 because that's what percent means. So it's a fraction like that. Of means we're timesing the two things together, and our amount is 230. And that, I hope you should get 179.4. You might need to round it, but we'll do some rounding later. Hopefully everybody's okay with that. Now, what if we get something a bit different? We might have that sales in a shop or something has reduced by a percentage. So what do we do? Well, what's different here compared to the one that we did before? We've got this reduce. So it's not just asking us to calculate a percentage. There's one extra step that we have to do. Reduce means take away. So I need to do the exact same thing that we did here, but then take off from my amount. So I'm being asked to reduce by 65%. I know 65% is 117. We worked that out in the previous example. So all I have to do is I have to take it away. So for this example, take my amount here and take away what we found as the percentage, which was 117. And that should get you 63. So you do the exact same thing, work out the percentage, but if you're asked to reduce, you take it away. If you're asked to increase, then instead of taking it away, you would add it on. All right. Let's have a go at one yourself. I think there should be one coming up. Oh no, I'll have a go at this one. So that's what we do for percentages and reducing. Now here, we might get one where we've got a bit of context. So it says 15 people were asked if they like maths. 3 people said no. What percentage of people liked maths? My sort of aim with this one is to get you thinking about wording of questions. So 15 people liked it. 3 people said no. Oh, sorry, 15 people were in total. 3 people said no. How would we work out how many people liked maths? Well, we take the total amount and we subtract the people that didn't. So we've got 12 people that liked it. Now, what percentage like maths? I know the fraction of people that like maths. I know 12 liked it out of the total of 15. So 12 out of the total of 15. Now, that's a fraction, and I want to change that to a percentage. Percentage means out of 100. So to go from a fraction to a percentage, I need to multiply by 100. Got my fraction, multiply it by 100, and I think you should get 80%. Now again, if you do it on a calculator, do the division bit first, work out what that gives you, and then multiply it by 100. Okay. Let's have a go at a similar one like that. A little bit, I think, less work for you to do here, but a similar style question. I'll give you a minute to have a go at that one. If you're unsure, by the way, have a wave over to one of the maths people at the back. They can help you. Again, also don't be afraid of not knowing. That's why you're here. You're not supposed to know it all, so it's absolutely fine to say you're not sure. Someone will come and help you. Just pop your hand up. Okay, what did we have to do for this one? I think there was a bit less work because it just wanted you to look at the amounts of the percentages of mortgage approved in Italy. So we knew the mortgages in Italy approved were 102,000. Out of the total amount of mortgages across the 5 countries was 5,100. And that's the fraction. Look what you're being asked. We're being asked for a percentage, so I need to multiply that by 100. If you've got a calculator, put it straight in. If not, you might remember from primary school, we can cancel zeros from top and bottom here. But if you've got a calculator, just pop it in. I think you should get 20%. You might be able to see that one straight away, but always double check with the calculator. You don't have to rely on just your brain. Okay, so that's what we do. A fraction, to get it as a percentage, we times by 100. Let's have a go at a psychometric style one. So here we've got the exact same charts. The numbers are the same as the previous example. This time we're being asked what percentage of total phone suppliers in the UK was from the year 2007. So keywords here, we want the percentage, total phone suppliers, and we want the year 2007. So you only need the year 2007. Don't worry about any of the other bits. We want the total, so what do we need to do? Have a think. I'll give you 1 minute. Okay, again, similar idea. This time it's just a bit in context. You have to decide which bits you're taking the maths from. You should have got 48.6%. Sometimes in tests you might see options that say you can't tell or there's not enough data. Have a think about whether an answer like that seems reasonable. Do we have enough data here? Yes. What did we need to do? We needed to look at the year 2007, and the number of phone suppliers in the UK then was 9,342. And then we want the total phone suppliers. So total, we're just adding them all together. So what we're doing here is adding all of this column up. So out of all of that column added up, I'll just do the first 2. adding the rest up. And then we want it as a percentage, so we multiply by 100. Okay, hopefully everybody's okay with that. You should get 48.6%. Make sure you're taking the data from the right years. You might be working out the right stuff, but make sure you're taking the right data. Okay, one final thing about percentages, you might be asked to do an increase or a decrease. Let's have a look at how we do one like this. I'll do one first, then I'll show you a little formula to help you remember. So we've got the number of students in a school in 2015 was 1,720, and in 2016 it was 2,100. We want to work out the percentage increase because it's increased. First thing you do is you take the new amount, so this most recent amount, and take away the old amount, so the original amount of students. And you always then divide it by the original amount. So do the difference out of the original amount. I've done the subtraction out of the original. You can then put that in a calculator. You could work out this bit and then divide, however you like to type it in a calculator. And then times that by 100 because we want a percentage. So I'll quickly do it on my calculator here for you. What should we get? 2,100, take away 1,720, that gets me 380. Divide by that original amount. Okay, that's what I get there. And then I want to multiply that by 100. 22.09%. So one decimal place, which we'll do in a minute, so don't worry if you're not sure on that, is 22.1%. We'll do decimal places in a minute. Okay, so the formula for that is there. Percentage increase or decrease. Your new amount, so that was our 2016 amount. Take away your old amount, so what you started with, out of your old amount, and then we want it as a percentage, so we times by 100. I'll just leave that up for a minute. Everyone okay with that? Write it down if you want. These slides will also get sent out to you as well. So that's what we do with a percentage or decrease. I'm going to give you another minute to have a go at one like this. It says, what was the percentage decrease in profits from 2006 to 2007? 1 minute just to have a quick go at that one. Okay, what did we have to do here? Well, we wanted the percentage decrease. If you've got an answer, you might be a little confused whether you've done it right or not. I wanted just to throw a decrease in here. You should get 41.7%. Now, if you work it out, let's just do it really quickly. The profit in 2006, we worked it out previously, was 36,000. And in 2007, it was 21,000. So you can see I have decreased here. So D for decrease. That's why we want the percentage decrease. The formula says take your new amount, which is 21. Oh, sorry, I'll zoom in. Which is 21,000, and subtract your old amount, which was 36,000, out of your new amount. Out of your old amount, which was 36,000. And I want that as a percentage, so I times by 100. That will give you a negative because it's a decrease, but the decrease, it's a negative because it's a decrease, so it's a decrease of 41.7%. Everybody okay with that? So you should get a negative, but because You get negative because it's a decrease. Okay, going to move on. Percentage increase or decrease is all about that formula. Just due to time, we're going to miss fractions, but we've been dealing with fractions throughout this anyway. Couple of reminders on decimals. The main thing to take away about decimals that will help you for quite a lot of the stuff is remember that 0.1 as a fraction is 1 divided by 10, right? If I take 1 and divide it by 10, I get 0.1. Couple of visual representations to help you remember. If you like to work visually, we've got just 1 coloured in out of the 10, 1 coloured in out of the 10 bars, or you can think about it on a number line. I would remember that, and then you can use that to help you with decimals. When you multiply a decimal by 10, you move the decimal point 1 to the right. So here's an example. I multiply this decimal by 10. Here's my decimal point. I'm moving it 1 to the right. It gets 10 times bigger. Same idea about dividing, but we move it 1 to the left. The reason we're telling you this is, yes, you might have a calculator, but you've got to think whether your answer makes sense. So if I divide a decimal by 10, is the decimal point actually moving to the right place? Just before you select an answer, make sure it makes sense. Okay, so not too much about decimals, just a little reminder. If you want to write some notes, 0.1 is 1 over 10. Okay, let's have a quick look at rounding. I put this decimal in here for you just to have a think. 1, it looks a bit messy. 2, it depends on the context of the question, but if you're asked for an answer that maybe is a number of people, we can't have 0.14159 number of people. So always think about your answer. You might need to round that. That would be, in context, 3 people, for example. But we're going to have a quick look at rounding to decimal places because you might work out an answer and then all the options are all rounded. So how do we know which one to pick? I'll work through this example first and then you can have a go. So I think I've wrote the decimal down somewhere. Let's see if I've got it. If not, I'll just write it down. Let's write it down. So 8,897.693. I want it to 1 decimal place. So I look at my first decimal here. I then look at the one that's next to it. So I draw a line here to help me. And I think, right, this is a 9. If this number after the line is a 5 or more, it rounds this 6 up. Okay, so to 1 decimal place, I look at the first decimal point here. Whoops. I look at the 9. It's 5 or bigger because it's a 9, so it rounds up to 8,897.7. So because it's a 9, that 6 becomes a 7. If this was a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, it would stay as a 6. And we'll look at some examples like that in a minute. Okay, let's have a go at one again. This time we're looking at the nearest 100 and the nearest 1,000. This one I think is a bit of common sense. It's asking you which 100 are we nearest? Well, I've got 2,200 over here, and then up over here I've got 2,300 because we're in between 200 and 300. So which one am I closer to? Well, I'm above 50. If we put it on a number line, I'm somewhere over here. So to nearest 100, we get 2,300. Everybody okay with that? And then if I want the nearest 1,000, again, which 1,000 am I nearest to? So, you know, don't think mathematically here, just think common sense. I've got 2,000 sat over here. I've got 3,000 sat over there. Which one am I closest to? Well, I'm below 500. I'm sort of over here somewhere on a number line. So to a nearest 1,000, we should get 2,000. Everybody all right with that? I think it's time for you to have a go. So we've got a nearest 100, a nearest 1,000, and then to 2 decimal places. I'll put the timer up. Have a go. I'll give you a minute. All right, so we had 1,728 and we've got loads of decimals. They look a bit ugly. We want to round it. We want the nearest 100. Well, again, you can think or you can maybe see it straight away. What 100 am I nearest to here? I've got 700, or the next one will be 800. And I can see here the nearest 100 is 1,700 if I round down to that nearest 100. Which 1,000 am I nearest to? So for part B, the nearest 1,000. I've got 1,000 sat down over here. I've got 2,000 sat up there, and I can see I'm closer to 2,000. So we round like that. C, I didn't explicitly tell you how to do, but I told you how to do one decimal place. I'm looking at two decimal places here. So I'll look at the 9 and then I'll look at the 1 because that's my second decimal place. I'll look at the number after it and I see that that's a 4. Like I said, if it's a 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4, it keeps the number as it is. If it's a 5 or above, we're closer to the next one, so it rounds it. But here it's a 4, so it stays like that. Everybody okay with that? Two decimal places, we get an answer there. Now, why have we done a bit of rounding? Because it will help with estimating questions. If you're asked maybe to estimate something, you might not use the whole number. All your answers might be rounded in your options. You might need to do some rounding for an estimate question. Okay, so not too tricky. Common sense for those ones. Think about which one you're looking at, and two decimal places or 3. You look at the 1, 2, 3 and round them as you need to. Okay, final bit is a bit on averages. I've put in the title mean average. You might not be told that it's the mean average, but I think we're taking that to be given. So we'll look at how to do the mean average now. I always remember, and it's a bit cheesy, but I always remember maths is being mean, and in quotation marks, you need to do a lot of work. So what that means is if you're being asked to find the mean average or just the average, add up everything that you've got, add up all your data, and then divide by the amount of data pieces that you've got. So if I had 3 pieces of data, I'd add them all up and then I'd divide by 3. Okay, just give you a minute if you want to write that down. Add up all the data together and divide by how many pieces you've got. All right. So let's do an example, a very basic example. You might be able to do it in your head. If not, grab a calculator. It's very useful. So 4, 8 and 9. No context to this. We just want to find the mean average. So what do? We add up all the data. So I've got 4 plus 8 plus 9. And how many pieces of data have I got? Well, I've got 3. On a calculator, make sure you do this bit first. So add up all of those, then divide by 3. 21 divided by 3, that gets you 7. So I don't know, it could be the average shoe size or average age of a child, I don't know. We get the average to be 7. So add up all your data, divide by how many you've got. I think this is one for you to have a go at. Yes, it is. This time we've got 6 pieces of data. We do the exact same thing. I'll give you 30 seconds for this one. And if you can, you should get a decimal, round it to 1 decimal place. Okay, hopefully that was long enough. Where could we go wrong here? I mean, it's a very simple operation. We add all of these together and we divide by 6. You might think that you just take one of the 2s, but you don't. You take all of them. If there's repeated stuff in your data, in your chart, and you're not sure which one to take, because there's repeated 2s here, you still take them all. So what we do is we add them all together. So I have 10, 239. I made these numbers up, so they're a bit random, but 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 2. Work out what that is. How many pieces of data have we got? I've got 6, so we divide it by 6, and you should get 43.333. That carries on forever on your calculator display. And we'll recap decimal places. I want to round it to 1 decimal place, let's say. So I look at this one. I put the line after it. I see this is a 3, so it keeps this one before it as it is, 43.3 to 1 decimal place. So you may get that as an answer and then look at your options and think none of them are there. Well, it's because the answers have all been rounded. So just think whether your answer makes sense. Okay, let's do an example one from psychometric test. Exact same charts, exact same numbers. And it says, what was the average yearly cost between 2003 and 2007? I'll give you a minute to do this one. Oh, not an hour. Okay, we'll work through it slowly. Don't worry if you've not got the answer. First of all, think about what years you want. You may not be asked for all of them. We want all of the years here, so that's good. But you might just take maybe the first 4 in some questions. So make sure you take the actual right bit. Your answer should be D, 132,400. What did we do? We added all of these up. Just to save time, I'm going to write 86K. So 86,000 plus 92,000 plus 114,000 plus 168,000 plus 202,000. That's adding all of this column up here because we wanted yearly cost. Make sure you're actually adding up the right columns from your charts. And I divide all of that by how many pieces of data I had. Well, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we divide it by 5. And that's going to be option D, which is 132,400. Does the answer make sense? Always make sure that your answer makes sense. So here we want the average yearly cost. If I get an answer that is not really within this range, or, you know, if I get like an answer of 1 million, it's clearly not right. It doesn't make sense because none of them are at 1 million. If I get an answer of a yearly cost of £100, again, that doesn't make sense because all of these are in the thousands. So I can't have one that is really sort of out of all the data. So make sure your answer makes sense. This does because it's the average. It's sort of fitting in with the trend of all those yearly costs. Okay, that's it from me. Hopefully that helped with some of the basics. Little recap on stuff. If you need help at the end or you've got some questions, I'll be here. The helpers will be here as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Harry. I certainly wish that I had teachers like Harry when I was at school. I think I probably would have done so much better with my maths. So yeah, thank you for volunteering your time today to help with this. So hopefully all of you found that useful. It was going right back to basics, so hopefully some of you didn't find that too basic, but I think what it gives you is the bare bones of the types of questions that you will be asked in these psychometric tests. And if you understand the basics, then actually it's just working through the rest of it on top. So yes, that is the end of the maths today. I just wanted to wrap up really with a few common questions that we get from students. First one, how are the tests scored? Are they negatively marked? And by that, we mean if you answer a question wrongly, do they take a mark off? The answer is mostly no, they don't. So it's always worth giving things a go. Even if you really have no clue at all, guess if it's multiple choice, because you never know whether, you know, you might get the right answer. So it's quite rare that they're negatively marked. Should I declare a disability, and what will happen if I do? So this is a question that we're often asked. So some of you in the room might get extra time, for example, on exams. We would say it's always a personal choice to declare this as part of an assessment process. But if you do come across a test, and also it's your choice when to disclose as well. But if you come across a numerical test and you think, actually, you know what, now I think I might need a bit of extra time, it's worth mentioning that to the recruiter. There's normally formal ways that you can do that, because it could be that they will give you up to 25% extra time to do this type of test. So if you do have that on your mind, then please do it. If any of you have any extra concerns about relating to disability in this, and you want to chat anything through, we do have appointments in the career service as well, so just come and talk to us about that. What about international students? Can I take a test in my own language? Then quite often, actually, the answer is yes, especially a numerical test. A lot of the tests that are used are mass produced by test providers. And if you really feel that it will help you to be asked those questions in your home language, then that it's worth asking, because quite often they've replicated the test in a number of different languages. The reasons why they might say no to this is maybe if their business language is English and they need you to be able to work to a certain level using the English language. But it's worth an ask if you think that would help you. I'm rubbish at tests. Should I just give up? No, please don't. Just give it a go. As I said at the beginning, you don't know who you're up against, who your competition is. Just have a go, and hopefully each time you do it, you'll just get that little bit better. So how to practice? I mentioned this at the beginning. So Graduates First is an external website platform that we pay to buy into as a university so that you can use their resources for free. They have got, I would guess, hundreds of practice tests on their website. So scan the QR code, or also you can find this through the career service website. Go to psychometric tests on there and you'll find it.
They've got to go through the Manchester website as well.
Yes, I was just going to say that. We have had an incident recently where people have just searched on Google for Graduates First and gone in that way. If you do that, they'll try and make you pay to use the site. So make sure you definitely either use this QR code, and you see this page here that's got the Manchester logo on the front. As long as you get that, you click to register, use your University of Manchester email address to get on there, and you'll be able to access all of the different tests on there and do them in your own time and repeat them as many times as you want. Another good resource for those of you who might be familiar with this already or may not, on the BBC Bite Size website. So if you just search for BBC Bite Size Maths Key Stage 3, that's the level of maths we've been doing today. There's also the next level up, which is GCSE Maths. I actually don't think you need to know that level of maths to do these psychometric tests, but it might be worth you just having a look at that as well and work through some examples. More general information on psychometric tests. So, excuse me, sorry. So we have got 4 main areas for you there. There's the career service website, so you can see there we've got a whole page on psychometric testing, all of the different types that you can come across. There's videos available, that sort of thing. Bottom left, you have the YouTube channel. University of Manchester careers. So there's videos on there of sessions that we've recorded that we've done over the last year or so. In the middle there, if you don't want to have to pick your own way through all of the resources, we've set up a pathway specifically for psychometric tests where it will basically guide you through the top resources that we think might be useful to you rather than you having to look at everything. So if you go into Career Connect, click on that button at the top right, which is Pathways, and find the one that's Psychometric Tests and have a go at that. And then finally, sorry, I mentioned at the beginning, we've got a few events coming up. So then the one at the top there is the Numeracy session from today. This screenshot, by the way, is taken from Career Connect, where we list all of the events. In the middle one there, we have got Get Ready for Situational Judgment Tests. So that's the one where you're given a scenario and you might have to say what you do in that situation. So that's in November. I can't quite see the time there, but if you have a look on Career Connect, you will see that. And then we've got a general Get Ready for Psychometric test a little bit later as well. So that will give you a full flavour of all the different types of tests available.